Great, thank you. And I have to say, following on from Kieran and from Andy is both an honour and it's also making me feel a little bit nervous. So, because I've been following their work for quite some time, so I'm really pleased to share the podium today. My day job is I'm CEO at AFANT, which is the Amateur Fishermen's Association, or the peak body for recreational fishing in the Northern Territory. And I'm pretty pleased to be here talking to you about a project that sort of combines two passions that I have. One really is collaboration of end users and recreational fishers working with researchers, and the other is, of course, trying to integrate and better use social dimensions and better understand the social performance of our fisheries. So just a real brief, and I'm going to have to be brief because 12 minutes is hard for me. I'm a fast talker, but I'm a long talker, so I'll do my best. But this really was a collaborative project from the beginning, right from the concept that we needed this research that was identified by the fishery managers and by us as the peak industry body. The PI, Neil Howes, and myself worked extensively in the beginning around really working out what kind of project would tackle that priority, what team we would need to assemble, both to have the technical competency, but also the stakeholder buy-in, and bringing in people like commercial fishing experts who were trusted by the department, bringing in the leaders of the Guided Fishing Industry Association, as well as, so we had the tourism and the recreational fishers represented. I won't say too much more other than that we did our best to keep checking in, and we had almost weekly engagement throughout a very extended period of time here. So a little bit on fishing in the Northern Territory of Australia. We have the highest levels of fishing participation in Australia. 1 in 3 people, both men and women, going fishing. We always talk about the territory lifestyle. We're a small place. We've got about 250,000 people, and fishing is so pervasive that if you're to talk about the runoff, everybody knows that that's the season of fishing that occurs when all the water's pouring off the floodplain, whether you're a fisher or not. And if you heard someone in the street talking about a meatery, everyone knows that's a metre-long barramundi and absolutely nothing else. It's worth quite a bit to our jurisdiction of 250,000 people, $270 million of value, and 2,500 jobs. And really, barramundi, despite all of the variety of fishing that we do have, is the absolute backbone of both our tourism industry, our recreational fishing community, and that's really underpinned by a couple of key factors. One is the near pristine catchments that we have, wild floodplains, no dams on any of our major rivers, bipartisan political commitments never to dam our rivers, and the last 25 years prioritising management for recreational and tourism outcomes in the barramundi fishery and away from commercial harvest. So a little bit more on that. That's my colleague Joanne Rudd, who I get to work with most days at AFANT. She's an absolute gun at catching huge barramundi. And just a quick snapshot there. Look, reduction from 100 to 14 licences in the commercial barramundi fishery. Last couple of years, we've actually secured a commitment that next year will be the last year for commercial barramundi gill netting. So that's set to decline even further. There's been net-free areas. Abundance has been estimated in most of these catchments at around B80. It could be more, it could be less. It's fairly rubbery, it's really high. Strong conservation ethics is really pervasive through recreational fishing and the tourism industry. And we actually have a couple of key catchments, the Daly and Mary catchments, where the rules that are in place have actually been brought in to try to achieve social objectives. So better sharing between fishers. We've got upper size limits that are not put for biological reasons, but are really to try to release those trophy fish and reflect the fact that they're highly valued by the people that fish there. And reduce bag limits, again, to try to, I guess, better share and reflect the fact that some of those areas are more prioritised for selective harvest or catch and release. We do have legislative requirements, of course, for sustainability, and the other legislative requirements we have is to manage our fisheries for optimal return to the community. So thinking about social and economic benefits too. But traditionally, we've really mostly focused on the biological side of things, and there's been a reluctance of how to embed things like satisfaction or social performance into fisheries due to both a lack of know-how and a bit of concern that we might be asking questions that we don't have answers for. I'm definitely going slower than I'd hoped, so I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. I just want to talk here about the fact that our project involved both a qualitative and quantitative component. The first part was a literature review, and then some stakeholder forums and some focus groups where our social scientists got both avid and casual fishers and some of the experts around to try to identify what some of the factors behind satisfaction might be. Also defining, what is satisfaction? How do we measure it? And I think the architects of that are in this room. So I won't say more about that. Also, what segments or types of fishes or differences we might have, getting behind the reasons for fishing, and then using this to define the survey questions. The other major question that we came up with, and our managers were really interested in, was if we say, how were you satisfied with your experience fishing today? Was that the same as asking people thinking just about your fishing today, or just the catch today? Would that question make a difference? And managers were particularly sensitive to that question. So we thought about trying to understand that. Kicked off with boat ramp interviews, about 500 of those across 2 key fishing seasons. And I guess the real thing that I wanted to say we got there was information from people about how many fish they caught, the biggest size of fish that they caught, the biggest size of fish that they released, the biggest size of fish they retained, the reason for their fishing that day. And then also they were asked those key satisfaction questions. They were asked about their overall fishing satisfaction, so how was your overall experience today? And then the interviewers tried to ask them, saying, putting everything else aside and thinking only about the fishing, how would you rate your experience today and how satisfied with it were you? And they were asked to state the reasons for those. The main survey then included both following up with those people who had done the boat ramp survey for a longer form interview. There was promoted opportunities online through our organisation and some others for people to self-select to do the survey. There was a random call component, and there was also some research panels. Then what we did with those people, of course, was first to get some information about their barramundi fishing in general, their avidity and everything else. How often do they go fishing? What places do they fish? And then really we zeroed in on, similar to what the boat ramp survey was, which was thinking about the last time you went fishing on a very specific trip, and they goes questions around how many fish they caught, what they caught and released, and then those overall and fishing specific satisfaction questions, and again the reasons. From that qualitative component, we'd come up with some key statements, or 18 statements that were deemed to be likely to be influencing satisfaction. And there was a max diff survey component where people were forced to make choices around what was most important to them. And then we surveyed satisfaction against those statements to try to understand if we knew what was driving satisfaction or not. And I guess the key results were probably unsurprisingly, some of these things are certainly not specific to the barramundi fishery. Spending time with family and friends, relaxation and excitement were key factors. And when we look at that max diff analysis, the top importance factors were having abundant populations of barramundi, environmental quality, fishing on our vast connected floodplains, enforcement of fishing regulations, ease of access to spots, and the availability of barramundi at those places. There was some difference in the way that this was ranked, whether people were considering it from a overall or fishing satisfaction perspective. Like fishing satisfaction had things like number of fish or potentially size of fish, but they were actually weighted and ranked lower than these things. So this was the sort of the mean of it. The analysis carried out by my social scientist experts was that these statements overall actually didn't account for the main things that were influencing satisfaction, accounting only for 30 and 37% of those satisfaction. So the headline result, people are pretty satisfied with barramundi fishing in the Northern Territory, overall satisfaction score of 7.75 and 7.62, slightly lower for fishing specific satisfaction. My colleagues tell me there was no statistically significant difference between asking those two questions when it was, I guess, when all things were considered, and that was, I guess, quite interesting to us, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But there was a difference when we start to look at some of the segments. And so I guess we need to get into this. Again, when we asked residents or non-residents, there wasn't a significant difference between the two types of satisfaction questions asked, but there was higher satisfaction for visitors. Maybe because they're on holiday, maybe because they're fishing one of the best places in the world, and if you don't live there, you're not used to it. But there was a difference. 2 minutes, okay, I think I can get there. In terms of avidity, again, no difference across the questions, but people who fish more often were more satisfied. Time and place, again, no significant difference in the two types of questions, but people who had fished at one particular location, the Daly River, it's a great place. It tends to get fished at a great time of year as well, but overall satisfaction and catch satisfaction or fisher satisfaction was higher there. But there was a significant difference in overall satisfaction for people who fished in the build-up season. So if anyone's been to the Northern Territory in the build-up season, that's right before the monsoon hits. It's the day that every day you're praying for rain. The rain never comes. It's hotter than you can imagine and more humid than anyone should have to endure. This could be part of the factor. It does tend to be a good time for you to fish, but there could be some impacts there. The main difference we did find with sampling really was that there was significantly lower fisher satisfaction for people who were interviewed at the boat ramp. Now, the interviewers did say it was a little clunky trying to explain this question. Not sure if that's the reason, but data matching showed that when those same people were followed up later on, they actually scored their specific satisfaction much higher and back up in line with everybody else. People who did it afterwards, that really wasn't shown. So the difference was not significant when the overall question was asked, either at the boat ramp, but there was an issue there with timing. So just to recap, the fishing satisfaction as we measured it with NT Barramundi fishing is high, overall 7.75. Fishing satisfaction can be impacted by when you ask the question. Overall satisfaction can be impacted by the time of year that you fish. And in terms of recommendations, as I want to try to keep the time, is that we recommend using the overall satisfaction measure going forward to survey evenly across seasons or maybe only at one time. And then because the different catchments had different embedded expectations and because they're biologically discrete stocks, that we should continue to monitor at that catchment or regional scale. And so really the next steps for us are that we haven't embedded this in a harvest strategy yet. This has been delayed because of the major policy shifts, but we are in a situation now where, unlike most other wild fisheries, we're probably going to become even less concerned with biological management and sustainability in this fishery, but there's going to be increased expectation for managers to be saying, hey, we've got these rules in place, we need to have good return to the community, we have a legislated need to do this. Are our rules performing? Should all areas now be managed as those special areas? Are there things going wrong? And can we survey satisfaction and integrate it into our decision-making frameworks to say, hey, there's been a significant change, that triggers an opportunity to investigate and a need to investigate that management and to see if we can improve that. So we've got some more irons in the fire to again bring our social scientists and our fishery managers together to come up with some performance indicators based out of our study. And we want to keep doing it at the regional level. And we know that not everything hit the mark. After 5 years, we'd like to review this, but also see if we can do a better job of understanding those important factors. So thank you so much. I've gone 13 minutes and something, so apologies for that.